Most people think Sweden costs a fortune. They see headlines about $30 hamburgers and $8 coffee cups and immediately write it off as a destination only for the wealthy. But what if I told you that thousands of young people, students, and smart expats are living comfortably in Sweden on just $700 a month? What if the country famous for IKEA, ABBA, and sky-high prices actually has secrets that locals don't want tourists to know about? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on Sweden. Not the glossy travel brochure version, but the real Sweden where clever budget hacks meet a culture so unique. It'll change how you think about Scandinavian life forever. From dating customs that will shock Americans to food traditions that seem straight out of a comedy sketch. Sweden is full of surprises that most visitors never experience. But here's the thing about Sweden that nobody tells you upfront. It is a country of extremes wrapped in the most ordinary-looking package you can imagine. While tourists struggle to afford a single meal in Stockholm's tourist districts, locals know where to find hearty lunches for under $5. While dating apps dominate most of the world, Swedes have maintained social customs that feel like they're from another planet entirely. The numbers don't lie either. Sweden consistently ranks in the top 5 happiest countries globally, as one of the world's strongest economies. It maintains a standard of living that makes other European nations envious. Yet somehow, with the right approach, you can access this lifestyle for less than what most Americans spend on their monthly car payment. So buckle up, because we're about to explore Sweden that travel guides don't mention. Where midnight sun meets budget living, where silent train rides hide the most welcoming people you'll ever meet, and where $700 can actually buy you a month of Scandinavian lifestyle if you know the right moves. Sweden stretches across 450,000 square kilometers of Scandinavia, but numbers alone can't capture what makes this place special. Picture a country with over 100,000 lakes scattered across forests that seem to go on forever. In summer, the sun barely sets in the north, creating an almost surreal atmosphere where the AM feels like afternoon. Come winter, those same northern regions plunge into weeks of darkness, broken only by the dancing green curtains of the aurora borealis. This geography isn't just pretty scenery, it shapes everything about how Swedes live, work, and interact. The long, dark winters have created a culture that values indoor coziness, quality time with close friends, and finding joy in simple pleasures. Meanwhile, the bright summers trigger an almost manic appreciation for outdoor life, with Swedes spending every possible moment in nature, at summer houses, or soaking up vitamin D like their lives depend on it. The country divides roughly into 3 regions, each with its own personality. The south, including cities like Stockholm and Gothenburg, feels almost European with milder weather and more cosmopolitan vibes. Central Sweden offers the perfect balance of urban conveniences and natural beauty, while the north, Lapland, remains wild, sparsely populated, and absolutely stunning. What's fascinating is how this geography creates microcultures within the country. Northerners are known for being even more reserved than southern Swedes, which is saying something. They speak slower, think longer before answering questions, and treat silence like a comfortable old friend. Meanwhile, Stockholm residents, while still distinctly Swedish in their reserved nature, display hints of big city energy that you won't find in smaller towns. The climate plays tricks on visitors too. Sweden's position means that winter darkness arrives gradually, then hits like a wall. By December, Stockholm gets about 6 hours of daylight, while the far north sees none at all for weeks. But here's what guidebooks don't mention. This darkness creates the most incredible sense of community. Swedes combat seasonal blues with traditions that bring people together, from cozy coffee dates to elaborate light festivals. Summer flips the script entirely. The famous midnight sun means the northern third of the country experiences 24-hour daylight for months. Even Stockholm enjoys nearly 19 hours of daylight at summer's peak. This creates a cultural phenomenon where Swedes seem to collectively lose their minds with joy, spending entire nights outdoors, hosting endless barbecues, and displaying levels of social energy that would shock anyone who visits during winter months. The landscape itself tells stories of ancient glaciers, volcanic activity, and thousands of years of human adaptation. Those countless lakes aren't just beautiful. They're Sweden's highway system, connecting communities and providing fresh water, fish, and transportation routes that shaped settlement patterns for centuries. The forests, covering nearly 70% of the country, aren't wilderness in the American sense. They're managed, productive ecosystems where every tree serves a purpose. From timber production to mushroom foraging to simply providing that essential connection to nature. That Swedes consider a human right. Understanding Swedish daily life means watching a society that has perfected the art of quiet efficiency. The average Swede wakes up around 6:30 a.m., not because they're early risers by nature, but because Swedish work culture values productivity over long hours. Most jobs start between 8 and 9 a.m., and the expectation is that you'll be focused, effective, and done by 5 p.m. so you can actually have a life. Morning commutes reveal something beautiful about Swedish culture, the comfortable silence. Buses and trains fill with people who acknowledge each other with subtle nods, then settle into peaceful quiet. No one's having loud phone conversations, playing music without headphones, or engaging in the aggressive small talk that dominates American public transport. This isn't rudeness. It has respect for shared space and a cultural understanding that not every moment needs to be filled with noise. The workplace culture continues this theme of respectful efficiency. Swedish companies famously practice flat hierarchies. We're calling your CEO by their first name is normal, where meetings start and end on time, and where the concept of work-life balance isn't just a buzzword, it's legally protected. Many companies offer flexible hours, remote work options, and the understanding that if you need to leave early for your kid's soccer game, that's perfectly acceptable as long as your work gets done. This efficiency extends to social interactions too. Swedes don't engage in elaborate social rituals or extended pleasantries. When they ask how are you, they actually want to know. So a simple fine or good suffices unless you have something specific to share. They don't make plans casually. If a Swede invites you to dinner, they mean it. They've thought about it, and they expect you to show up. The concept of Lagom permeates everything, though it's often misunderstood by outsiders. Lagom doesn't mean boring or average. It means finding the perfect balance, the just right amount of everything. It's having exactly what you need without excess, enjoying pleasures without overindulgence, and maintaining equilibrium in all aspects of life. You'll see this in Swedish homes that are beautifully designed but not cluttered, in social gatherings that are warm but not overwhelming, and in personal styles that are elegant without being flashy. Evening routines reflect this same thoughtful approach to life. Swedes typically eat dinner around 5 or 6 p.m., often something simple but high quality. They might spend evenings reading, exercising, or enjoying hobbies rather than collapsing in front of screens. Social plans are usually made in advance, and there's a strong culture of actually following through on commitments. The famous Swedish reserve isn't coldness, it's consideration. Swedes don't want to impose on others, don't assume their problems should become your problems, and generally believe that everyone deserves space to exist peacefully. Once you understand this, their behavior starts feeling less distant and more respectful. Swedish food culture revolves around one sacred ritual that visitors often misunderstand, but locals consider essential to daily life: fika. This isn't just a coffee break. It has an institutionalized pause that happens twice daily in most workplaces, and serves as the social glue holding Swedish society together. Around 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., everything stops for coffee and something sweet, usually a cinnamon bun or cookie. But fika isn't about the food. It is about the 15 to 20 minutes of genuine human connection in a culture that otherwise values efficiency and personal space. The coffee itself deserves special mention because Swedes consume more coffee per capita than almost any other nation. We're really talking serious coffee culture here. Not the sugary drinks that pass for coffee in many countries, but strong, high-quality brews that fuel the national productivity engine. Most Swedes own expensive coffee machines and consider good coffee a necessity, not a luxury. Even budget-conscious students will splurge on quality coffee beans, viewing it as an investment in daily happiness. Cinnamon buns, or kanelbullar, represent more than just pastry. They're edible symbols of Swedish comfort culture. Every bakery, grocery store, and many workplaces make fresh cinnamon buns daily. And the smell alone can make a homesick Swede tear up with nostalgia. The perfect cannibal has a soft, slightly sweet bread base with just enough cinnamon and sugar to be comforting, without being overwhelmingly sweet, often topped with pearl sugar that adds texture. But Swedish cuisine extends far beyond coffee culture into territory that ranges from comfortingly familiar to absolutely bizarre. Swedish meatballs, or köttbullar, are indeed a real thing, though they're smaller and more subtly spiced than the IKEA version suggests. Served with lingonberry sauce, cream gravy, and mashed potatoes, they represent Swedish comfort food at its finest. Simple ingredients prepared perfectly. Then there's the infamous fermented fish situation. Surströmming, fermented herring that smells like something died several weeks ago, represents the extreme end of Swedish culinary adventure. Most Swedes either love it or avoid it entirely. And there are actual etiquette rules about when and where you can open a can, without offending neighbors. The smell is so potent that many apartment buildings ban opening surströmming indoors. More accessible traditional foods include gravlax cured salmon, various pickled vegetables, hearty stews perfect for cold weather, and an impressive array of berries and mushrooms that grow wild throughout the country. Summer brings strawberry season, when Swedes collectively lose their minds over tiny, incredibly flavorful berries that make imported strawberries taste like water. The grocery shopping culture reflects Swedish values perfectly. Most people shop frequently, buying fresh ingredients for just a few meals at a time rather than doing massive weekly hauls. Grocery stores stock high-quality basics alongside specialty items, and there's a strong emphasis on organic and locally sourced products. Price-conscious shoppers know that generic brands in Swedish grocery stores maintain quality standards that often exceed name brands in other countries. Alcohol culture follows strict rules that initially confuse visitors, but make perfect sense within Swedish society. The government controls all alcohol sales through Systembolaget stores, which close early and aren't open on Sundays. This is nanny state control. It has harm reduction policy that has successfully maintained a healthy relationship with alcohol, while funding social programs through alcohol taxes. Swedes tend to drink high-quality alcohol in moderation, rather than consuming large quantities of cheap beer. The most surprising aspect of Swedish food culture might be how budget-friendly it can be. If you know the secrets, while restaurant meals cost a fortune, grocery prices for basics remain reasonable, especially when compared to Swedish wages. Cooking at home using simple, high-quality ingredients can actually cost less per meal than eating processed food. In many other countries, Swedish dating culture will completely scramble everything you think you know about romance, gender roles, and social interaction. If you're expecting traditional dating scripts where men initiate, pay for meals, and pursue women who play hard to get, Sweden will leave you completely confused and probably unsuccessful. Swedish women embody equality in ways that go far beyond legal rights into everyday attitudes and behaviors. They're financially independent by default, split bills without thinking about it, and approach dating as equals looking for compatible partners, rather than as women seeking providers or men seeking conquests. This independence isn't political posturing. It is so deeply ingrained that alternative approaches seem bizarre to most Swedish women. The dating process itself reflects broader Swedish cultural values of directness, honesty, and personal space. Swedes don't typically do elaborate courtship rituals or play games about interest levels. If someone likes you, they'll probably tell you directly. If they're not interested, they'll be clear about that too, though always in a respectful way that preserves everyone's dignity. Meeting people happens through social circles, work connections, or increasingly, dating apps, but the approach remains distinctly Swedish. There's no pressure to impress with expensive dates or elaborate gestures. A typical first date might involve coffee, of course, a walk in nature, or meeting for a casual meal where both people pay for themselves. The goal is genuine conversation and compatibility assessment, not performance or persuasion. Physical intimacy follows the same practical, honest approach. Swedes don't typically wait months to sleep together if there's mutual attraction, but they also don't treat casual encounters as meaningless. Everything happens with clear communication, mutual respect, and the understanding that both parties are adults making their own decisions. The most shocking aspect for many international visitors is how Swedish women approach nightlife and social interaction. They go out in groups, dance with friends, and aren't necessarily looking to meet romantic partners every time they socialize. They might chat with strangers, accept drinks, or even go home with someone, but all on their own terms, without feeling obligated to fulfill traditional gender role expectations. Swedish men, meanwhile, have adapted to this equality-focused culture in ways that can seem almost passive to outsiders. They don't typically approach women aggressively, don't feel entitled to attention, and are generally comfortable with women taking initiative. This creates a dating scene where personality, compatibility, and mutual attraction matter more than traditional gender performance. The relationship progression also follows uniquely Swedish patterns. Couples might date casually for months without defining the relationship, live together before making formal commitments, and approach major decisions as true partnerships. Marriage rates are relatively low not because Swedes avoid commitment, but because they don't need legal validation for relationships they consider permanent. Social gatherings reveal another layer of Swedish romantic culture. House parties, summer gatherings, and group activities provide natural opportunities for people to connect without the artificial pressure of formal dating. Alcohol often plays a role in loosening the usual Swedish reserve, but even drunk Swedes maintain their respectful, consensual approach to interaction. For foreign men expecting to sweep Swedish women off their feet with exotic charm or traditional masculine displays, the reality check can be harsh. Swedish women have traveled extensively, speak multiple languages, and aren't impressed by foreignness alone. They're looking for genuine compatibility, shared values, and emotional maturity rather than entertainment or financial security. The hookup culture exists, but operates under different rules than in many countries. Casual encounters happen with clear communication, mutual respect, and no shame or judgment from either party. But this openness doesn't mean Swedish women are more promiscuous. They are simply more honest about their choices and less constrained by traditional sexual scripts. Long-term relationships in Sweden often look different from traditional models. Couples maintain individual identities, interests, and even living spaces longer than in many cultures. They might vacation separately, maintain separate friend groups, and approach major decisions as negotiations between equals rather than assuming traditional roles. Swedish celebrations and traditions reveal the playful, slightly eccentric side of a culture that often appears serious and reserved to outsiders. These festivals and customs show how Swedes maintain connection to their heritage, while adapting ancient practices to modern life, often with results that are simultaneously touching and hilarious. Midsummer represents peak Swedish celebration, when the entire country seems to collectively embrace their inner pagan. The festival centers around dancing around a giant phallus-shaped maypole, while singing songs about frogs. Yes, you read that correctly. Swedes dress in white, wear flower crowns, and perform traditional dances that look ridiculous but feel magical when you're part of the circle. The celebration includes eating pickled herring, drinking snaps aquavit shots accompanied by drinking songs, and staying up all night because the sun barely sets. What makes midsummer special isn't the activities themselves, but the way usually reserved Swedes transform into enthusiastic participants in collective silliness. Watching a Swedish CEO earnestly hopping around a maypole while croaking like a frog provides insight into the culture-esque relationship with tradition, community, and the importance of occasionally abandoning dignity for shared joy. St. Lucia's celebrations in December show Swedish creativity in combating winter darkness. Young women dress as Lucia in white robes with candle crowns, leading processions through schools, workplaces, and public spaces while singing hauntingly beautiful songs. The tradition combines Christian elements with older winter solstice celebrations, creating a festival of light that provides emotional warmth during the darkest time of year. The crayfish parties of late summer might be Sweden's most delightfully absurd tradition. Participants wear silly hats, sing drinking songs between each shot of alcohol, and spend hours meticulously extracting tiny amounts of meat from crayfish, while getting progressively more intoxicated. The food-to-effort ratio is terrible, but that's not the point. It's about community, ritual, and finding reasons to celebrate together. Walpurgis night celebrations on April 30th involve lighting massive bonfires to symbolically burn away winter, complete with choral singing and speeches about spring's arrival. University towns become particularly festive, with students wearing white caps and engaging in traditions that can seem bizarrely formal to outsiders, but represent important rites of passage. For participants, Swedish Christmas traditions blend Christian elements with older customs and ways that create uniquely cozy celebrations. Families gather for elaborate smorgasbords featuring dozens of traditional dishes. Light real candles on Christmas trees, yes, actual fire hazards, and exchange gifts on Christmas Eve rather than Christmas morning. The Donald Duck Christmas special has somehow become an essential viewing tradition, with families gathering to watch the same Disney compilation every year. Name days carry more significance than birthdays in Swedish culture, with most people celebrating their name day annually. The tradition creates additional opportunities for recognition and gathering throughout the year, spreading celebration across the calendar rather than concentrating it around birthdays. Traditional folk music and dancing persist in ways that surprise visitors. Fiddle music, traditional costumes, and folk dances aren't museum pieces, but living traditions practiced at festivals, weddings, and community gatherings. Watching Swedes in traditional dress performing centuries-old dances reveals cultural continuity that modern Sweden maintains alongside its progressive values. Regional variations add complexity to national traditions. Northern Sweden maintains stronger connections to Sami culture with reindeer races, traditional crafts, and celebrations that acknowledge indigenous heritage. Southern Sweden shows Danish influences in food, architecture, and celebration styles. West Coast communities maintain maritime traditions, while inland areas preserve forestry and agricultural customs. The genius of Swedish celebrations lies in their ability to bring together tradition and modernity, individual expression and community participation, reverence and humor. They provide scheduled opportunities for usually reserved Swedes to connect emotionally, physically, and culturally in ways that daily life doesn't typically encourage. Living comfortably on $700 monthly in Sweden requires insider knowledge that most tourists never acquire and many travel guides don't share. The secret isn't surviving on this amount. It is actually living well by understanding how Swedish systems work and where locals find value that visitors miss entirely. Housing represents the biggest challenge and the most important hack to master. Student housing through universities costs $100 to $350 monthly for shared accommodation, often including utilities and internet. These aren't luxury apartments, but they're clean, safe, and located in areas with good public transportation. The waiting lists are long, so applying early is crucial, but international students often receive priority placement. Shared housing with Swedish roommates offers another pathway to affordable accommodation. Many Swedes rent out rooms in their apartments for $300 to $450 monthly, which includes access to kitchens, common areas, and often utilities. Living with locals provides cultural immersion opportunities that hotels or tourist accommodations can't match, plus roommates who know where to find the best deals in town. The grocery budget becomes manageable when you shop like locals rather than tourists. Swedish grocery stores offer excellent generic brands that cost significantly less than name brands while maintaining high-quality standards. Basic staples like pasta, rice, potatoes, seasonal vegetables, and dairy products remain reasonably priced, especially when purchased from discount chains like Willys or ICA Basic rather than premium stores. Cooking at home transforms from necessity to advantage when you embrace Swedish meal planning. Simple, high-quality ingredients prepared thoughtfully create satisfying meals for $3 to $5 per serving. Learning to cook basic Swedish dishes like pasta with cream sauce, simple fish preparations, or hearty vegetable soups provides comfort food that doesn't strain budgets. Student discounts unlock significant savings across multiple categories. Swedish student cards provide reduced prices for public transportation, movie tickets, gym memberships, and many restaurants. Some clothing stores, bookshops, and entertainment venues offer student pricing that can reduce costs by 20 to 50%. University cafeterias serve filling meals for $4 to $6, often with daily specials that provide excellent value. Transportation costs stay reasonable when you understand Swedish public transit systems. Monthly passes for local transportation cost $60 to $80 in most cities, providing unlimited access to buses, trains, and sometimes ferries. Many cities offer reduced rates for students, young adults, or long-term residents. Bicycles provide free transportation once purchased. And Swedish cities are extremely bike-friendly with dedicated lanes and parking free. Entertainment abounds when you know where to look. Museums often have free admission days. Parks and beaches provide endless outdoor recreation. And many cities host free concerts, festivals, and cultural events throughout the year. Libraries offer more than books. They provide free internet, study spaces, cultural programs, and sometimes even tool lending or creative workshops. The key insight that makes $700 monthly possible is understanding what Swedes value versus what tourists expect. Swedes prioritize quality over quantity, experiences over possessions, and community over individual luxury. Living like a local means embracing simpler pleasures, taking advantage of social systems designed to support residents, and finding satisfaction in lifestyle choices that emphasize balance over consumption. Seasonal shopping strategies can dramatically reduce expenses. Winter clothing purchases during spring clearance sales, summer gear bought in fall, and taking advantage of Swedish sales seasons provide necessary items at reduced prices. Many Swedes shop secondhand for clothing, furniture, and household items, not from financial necessity, but from environmental consciousness and appreciation for quality vintage finds. Work opportunities, even part-time or temporary positions, can supplement budgets significantly. Students can work limited hours while studying, and many Swedish employers offer flexible schedules that accommodate education or other commitments. Even basic jobs pay decent wages by international standards, and Swedish labor laws protect workers regardless of employment status. The social safety net provides additional security that reduces financial stress. Healthcare remains affordable, education costs stay minimal, and various support systems exist for residents experiencing temporary difficulties. Understanding these systems removes some financial anxiety that might otherwise push budgets beyond sustainable limits. Swedish transportation culture reflects broader values of efficiency, environmental consciousness, and social consideration in ways that consistently surprise international visitors. The punctuality of public transportation reaches almost supernatural levels. Trains and buses arrive exactly when scheduled, not approximately, and delays of even 5 minutes prompt official apologies and explanations. The silence on public transportation isn't awkwardness or unfriendliness. It is considerate behavior based on shared understanding that commute time should be peaceful. People read books, listen to music through headphones, or simply think quietly without feeling obligated to fill space with conversation. Phone calls happen in whispered tones, and loud behavior draws polite but clear social disapproval. Regional trains connecting Swedish cities provide comfortable, reliable transportation that makes car ownership unnecessary for many residents. Many Swedes commute by bicycle year-round, including through winter conditions that would terrify cyclists in other countries. Proper winter cycling gear and studded tires make this possible, though it requires commitment to Nordic cycling culture. This system works because social norms strongly discourage fare evasion, and the occasional spot checks carry significant penalties. The integration between different transportation modes, trains, buses, and airports creates seamless connections that eliminate the stress common in other travel systems. Sidewalks remain clear of snow in winter, crosswalks provide adequate time for crossing, and drivers consistently yield to pedestrians. The concept of unwritten right to roam extends urban walking culture into nature, where marked trails and outdoor exercise routes provide year-round recreation opportunities. Parking policies in Swedish cities actively discourage car ownership through high costs and limited availability, while simultaneously providing excellent alternatives. This is an anti-car bias, but environmental policy designed to reduce urban congestion and pollution. The result is cities that prioritize human-scale transportation and public spaces over automobile convenience. The healthcare system provides universal coverage that removes financial barriers to medical care, though accessing services requires understanding how the system works. Emergency care happens immediately and without cost concerns, while routine care follows appointment systems that prioritize serious conditions. Prescription medications cost relatively little, and preventive care receives strong emphasis to maintain population health. Swedish schools consistently rank among the world's best educational systems, emphasizing critical thinking, creativity, and individual development rather than standardized testing or competitive ranking. Students typically don't receive grades until age 13, focusing instead on learning for its own value. University education remains essentially free for Swedish and EU residents, with student loans available for living expenses rather than tuition costs. The social trust that underlies Swedish society enables systems that wouldn't work in more suspicious cultures. Honor system transportation, unlocked bicycles, and public facilities that operate without constant supervision reflect shared values about honesty, collective responsibility, and mutual respect. This trust develops through generations of social policies that ensure basic needs are met and reduce desperation-driven behavior. Women's rights and gender equality in Sweden exceed most international standards, though implementation remains imperfect despite strong legal protections. Workplace equality, parental leave policies that encourage fathers to participate in childcare, EU citizenship provides unlimited residence and work rights in Sweden, making relocation significantly simpler for EU passport holders. Brexit complicated this situation for British citizens, though various transitional arrangements and alternative visa categories continue providing options for UK residents interested in Swedish residence. Family reunification visas enable spouses, children, and sometimes other family members to join Swedish residents, though the process involves proving genuine relationships and meeting financial support requirements. The Swedish approach to family immigration balances humanitarian concerns with integration requirements designed to support successful settlement. Temporary residence permits can sometimes transition to permanent residence after meeting continuity requirements, language proficiency standards, and integration benchmarks. The process rewards commitment to Swedish society while maintaining standards designed to ensure successful long-term integration. Language requirements vary depending on visa category and intended length of stay, though learning Swedish significantly improves employment opportunities and social integration. Many Swedes speak excellent English, but Swedish language skills demonstrate commitment to integration and unlock job opportunities that require customer interaction or official communication. The job market for internationals varies significantly by sector, with some industries actively recruiting global talent, while others remain more closed to non-Swedish speakers. Understanding which sectors offer opportunities helps focus job search efforts and skill development on areas with realistic employment prospects. Housing requirements for visa applications often prove more challenging than employment or education requirements, particularly in Stockholm and other high-demand cities. Demonstrating secured accommodation or sufficient resources to obtain housing becomes crucial for successful visa applications. Integration requirements increasingly emphasize understanding Swedish culture, values, and civic responsibilities rather than simply meeting residency time requirements. These expectations reflect Swedish approaches to multiculturalism that balance cultural diversity with social cohesion. Professional credential recognition processes help international workers demonstrate their qualifications meet Swedish standards, though some professions require additional training or certification to practice in Sweden. Understanding these requirements early in the planning process prevents delays and disappointments. After spending time exploring Sweden's layers, from budget survival tricks to cultural quirks that initially seem bizarre, but eventually feel perfectly logical, certain truths emerge about this remarkable country that tourist brochures never quite capture accurately. Sweden challenges assumptions about expensive Scandinavian living by offering quality of life that transcends simple cost calculations. Yes, restaurant meals and tourist activities cost significantly more than budget destinations, but the underlying systems, healthcare, education, transportation, and social safety nets provide value that often exceeds their cost when viewed as comprehensive life support rather than individual transactions. The cultural reserve that initially strikes visitors as coldness reveals itself as respectful consideration once you understand the underlying values. Swedes aren't unfriendly, they're thoughtful about imposing on others, genuine in their social interactions, and committed to creating space for everyone to exist peacefully. This approach to human interaction, while different from more gregarious cultures, creates surprisingly comfortable social environments once you adapt to the rhythm. Swedish dating and relationship culture offers refreshing alternatives to traditional gender role expectations, though success requires abandoning scripts that work in other cultural contexts. The equality-focused approach creates opportunities for genuine compatibility and mutual respect, but demands emotional maturity and clear communication that some visitors find challenging. Initially, the seasonal extremes of light and darkness profoundly shape Swedish culture in ways that casual visits can't fully reveal. Living through a Swedish winter teaches appreciation for light, warmth, and human connection that influences priorities and values long after the season ends. Similarly, experiencing midnight sun summers creates understanding of why Swedes approach outdoor time with such intensity and gratitude. Swedish traditions balance reverence for heritage with practical adaptation to modern life, creating celebrations that feel both authentic and accessible. The combination of ritual significance and collective silliness in festivals, like Midsummer, reveals a culture comfortable with expressing joy and maintaining connections across generations. The environmental consciousness woven throughout Swedish society demonstrates how sustainability can enhance rather than restrict quality of life when supported by appropriate infrastructure and social policies. From transportation systems to waste management to urban planning, Sweden shows how environmental stewardship becomes convenient when systems support sustainable choices. Most importantly, Sweden offers a model for balancing individual freedom with collective responsibility, personal success with social welfare, and traditional values with progressive adaptation. The result isn't perfection. Sweden faces real challenges with integration, housing costs, and maintaining social cohesion amid global change. But it provides a working example of how societies can address modern challenges while preserving what makes life meaningful. For those considering extended stays or permanent relocation, Sweden rewards preparation, cultural curiosity, and realistic expectations while offering opportunities for personal growth and life experiences that few other countries can match. The initial adjustment period requires patience and open-mindedness, but the long-term rewards include access to a society that has successfully balanced prosperity, sustainability, and human dignity in ways that create genuine quality of life. Whether you're planning a budget adventure, considering educational opportunities, or simply curious about alternatives to familiar cultural patterns, Sweden offers perspectives on modern living that challenge assumptions and expand possibilities. The country's greatest achievement might be showing that different approaches to common human challenges can create societies where people genuinely thrive, rather than simply survive. Comment below if you're ready to experience Sweden beyond the tourist surface. And don't forget to subscribe for more honest travel insights that reveal what countries are really like when you strip away the marketing and dig into authentic local experiences. The real world is always more interesting than the brochures suggest.